In this video, we're going to demonstrate how we can organize our code into packages so that we can keep things separated and more organized, as well as potentially use our code again later. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new Finder window. And the reason I'm doing this is because packages, they kind of depend on folders a bit. So I'm going to go into my Java projects folder, and I'm going to just create a new folder. We'll create a new folder here, and we're going to call it shapes. So we're going to build a simple project to give us the area and the perimeter of some shapes. So in here, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it com. I'm going to go into that com folder, and I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to call this Timothy R. James, because typically we organize our code into the reverse of our domain name. So timothyrjames.com is a domain that I use, and we might put our code in com.timothyrjames, and we'll create a new directory here. We'll call this shapes. And what we're going to use this for, we're going to go ahead and create a new text file within this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and create in Text Wrangler a new Java file. I'm going to start off by saving it. I'm going to go into Java projects, shapes, com, Timothy R. James, shapes. And let's not save it as untitled text.7. That's probably no good. So let's go ahead and change that to shape.java. We're going to use Java. We'll go ahead and open that file up. So the first thing I'm going to do is use a package statement, package com.timothyrjames.shapes. Now notice com.timothyrjames.shapes matches com.timothyrjames.shapes. So I'm basically telling it the folder that this is stored in because packages depend heavily on folders. Now I'm going to make this an abstract class, public abstract class shape, because I'm going to define some things that this shape can do, but I'm not necessarily going to say what it is that or how it is that it's going to do those things. So I'm going to create a method, public double get area. Public, we'll also create public double get perimeter. And this will allow us to extend shape, but we'll have to implement those methods. So if I save my class, I should be able to open up a command line, and I'm going to go into Java projects /shapes. And here you'll see I just have a com directory. I'm going to type javac com Timothy R. James shapes shape.java. And you can see here I didn't declare this as an abstract method, so I'm getting errors. So what I need to do is add in that keyword abstract, which is basically saying this doesn't have an implementation. I'm marking it for something that other classes are going to have to override. So let's go ahead and try that again. And now we compile that. We should have a shape class in our folder. And if we go into our folder, you'll see here we have shape class right there. Now I can also create another one. Let's go ahead and hit Command N to create a new file. And I'm going to save this one. We'll save this in the same folder. We'll call this square. And we're going to put this in the package com Timothy R. James shapes, and then we're going to create public class square extends shape. And here we're just going to implement those methods. Now if we don't implement those methods, if I go ahead and save this and try to compile square com Timothy R. James shapes square.java, I'm going to get an error saying that I didn't actually override this method that was abstract, so I either have to make this square class abstract or I have to implement that method. So we'll go ahead and implement it. Public double get perimeter. Well, we don't know what that is yet because we haven't defined the square's values. So I'm going to create private double side, and then when I create my square, public square, we'll pass that in. Now, to get the perimeter, we will just return 4 times side. We'll also need to implement the area. Public double get area. Return side times side. Now we should have a square that will compile, and we have a shape that the square is based on. Now we could also create another, let's say we create a rectangle, for example. Public, well, let's make our package first. Package com Timothy R. James rectangle public class rectangle. Oh, this should be package com.timothyrjames.shapes public class rectangle. And here we can save it. We're going to save it as rectangle.java, and we'll go ahead and implement those as well. So we'll start off by creating a private double length, private double width, and we will also create a constructor public rectangle I don't want to just call this L because that's, that sometimes looks like a 1. So let's go ahead and just call it len here, and we'll say length is equal to len, width is equal to w. Now we can implement our methods: public double get perimeter, return length times 2 plus width times 2, public double get area, return length times width. So now we have a few classes, and we should be able to compile this as well, assuming I haven't made any typos. And we haven't. So now we can create a main method here, or a main class here. So I'm going to go ahead and create another class. We're going to put this right in the same package, package com.timothyrjames.shapes public class main. I'm going to just put in my main class a public static void main method. Now we've implemented a bit of a class hierarchy here. We've implemented shapes and we've implemented squares. So it brings up an interesting division. So if we declare a shape variable, we can declare that variable as a shape, but we can then instantiate that as maybe a new rectangle. And we could say 4.2 is its width and 7.1 is its length. And we can now use system.out.println shape.getArea. So let's save this as main.java, and we'll compile this. Java C com Timothy R. James shapes main.java. We didn't actually declare our rectangle as extending shape, so extends shape. There we go. Now we should be able to compile, and we can run this, but we don't run this by just typing Java main. We run this by typing java com.timothyrjames.shapes.main, because now that's the full name of our class. So we run this and we can see the area is going to be, it's just going to output that. Now an interesting thing here is because we have an object, we have a hierarchy, and we, all of our shapes here are extending the shape class. We could reset shape now. We could reuse that variable, and we could say shape is equal to new square 3.3, for example. System.out.println the area of the square is shape.getArea. Now I can compile my main class, and I can run my main class, and it's going to give me the area there. And this is interesting because I can now treat my square and my rectangle as a shape. Now this gets a little bit more interesting when I look at things I can do that are square methods, but not necessarily shape methods. So what if I have a public double get side? Well, this is legal. I can do that. I can add that. But the problem is, since my variable is a shape, I can't do this. System.out.println the size of a side is shape.getSide. This won't compile. And the reason why that won't compile is because getSide does not exist on shape. Because I've declared my variable as a shape, my object is a square, but my shape variable doesn't know how to directly access that. But I can change this. If I call this a square, and then I can use, instead of shape.getArea, I can use square.getArea and square.getSide. Now if I compile, this will run. So why would I do this? Why would I go through this process? Well, the reason why we have classes, and we have base classes, and we extend classes, and we also, this also applies to interfaces, is now I could potentially create a method that would, ask the user for some information and maybe then output all of the information about a square or about a shape. So maybe I have a method, private static void print shape stats, and we're going to pass in a shape. And we could say system.out.println, the area is shape.getArea. System.out.println, the perimeter is shape.getPerimeter. Now, let's say we create a few new shapes. We could say square is equal to new square 5.0. Rectangle is equal to new rectangle, say 7.510. Now we could use print shape stats on our square. We can also use that on our rectangle. And because a square is a shape, that's going to just print this out normally. And because a rectangle is also a shape, that's going to work as well. So just to demonstrate, if we run this, you'll see. Did we compile? Did I not? I didn't save this. All right, let's try that again. So now you can see 25 and 20, 75 and 35. So that's actually allowing me to reuse this method over and over again for anything that happens to be a shape. It allows me to write code that's very generic, but because I know a shape has a getArea method and I know a shape has a getPerimeter method, I can use that pretty effectively and pretty simply. Now, when I'm using TextWrangler or I'm using the command line, I have to build these directories by myself. I have to kind of do it manually. Now, if I'm using Eclipse, let me go ahead and open Eclipse. Eclipse makes this a little bit easier. I don't have to necessarily create directories. I still have to use the package, but Eclipse can kind of do some of this work for me automatically, which is another reason why people like IDEs like Eclipse. So if I go into Eclipse, and this is our project for our last video, all I have to do to move all of this is right-click here, and I'll create a new package. So new package, and I'm just going to call this com.timothyrjames.circle, and I hit finish. Now I have this new package. I can just move these classes. I'll select them all, hold shift and click, and I can move all of these into that package. And Eclipse will handle renaming the directories. It will handle adding a package statement. It'll do all of that work so that I don't have to necessarily do this. And it's a good idea to start organizing your files into these different packages so that you can keep your projects a little separate. And also, this allows other code that you might write to import this properly. So maybe I want to use this circle click listener again in the circle panel again. Well, I can just import com.timothyrjames.circle panel, and then I can use that in my other projects. So hopefully you've picked up something about packages and how you might use them here, and hopefully this shows you a little bit about how we might start building code that we can reuse. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to practice your coding.